Welcome to another IHCP Live. Today we'll be talking about the federal ordering practitioner requirements and how they apply specifically to school corporations. Under Federal Regulation 42 CFR 455.440, claims must include an individual's National Provider Identifier or NPI for all items or services that require an order or referral. Recently in IHCP publication BT 202486, we reiterated that this requirement applies to all IHCP enrolled school corporations who are billing for Medicaid covered services. Some services that require an order or referral would include nursing services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, respiratory therapy, or speech-language pathology and hearing services. The reason we're bringing this up today is that we will begin enforcing this requirement for all of these services other than transportation services. So other than transportation services, the IHCP will require an ordering or referring provider for all Medicaid claiming activity performed by a school corporation. As of November 1st, 2024, any claims without an ordering or referring provider will deny for explanation of benefit code 1132. That new explanation of benefit code will specify that specialty 120 or 212 is missing or has an invalid referring NPI. Now, one thing we want to reiterate is that school corporations can use any IHCP enrolled practitioner who can order items or services within their scope of practice as this referring NPI for that requirement. And these individuals can include physicians, advanced practice registered nurses, physician's assistants, but we also know that this can include school-based school psychologists. Those individuals may refer a student to the following services: speech language pathology and hearing services, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. For school corporations that are using a school-based school psychologist for this requirement, there are two key requirements that individual and the school corporation need to be aware of. That individual must have an NPI, a National Provider Identifier, and that individual must enroll with the Indiana Health Coverage Programs or the Indiana Medicaid Program as what's known as an ordering, prescribing, or referring provider, or OPR. Now, one key detail to remember, this does not impact a school-based school psychologist's ability to order or refer those services. Those actions are required if a school corporation is using this individual as the ordering or referring provider for Medicaid claiming. So again, to reiterate, this is specifically about school corporations that are performing Medicaid claiming activities. School psychologists can continue to make those orders without applying for an NPI and enrolling, unless the school corporation is planning to use that individual as the ordering or referring provider for one of these services. Now, if an individual doesn't already have an NPI, it's actually pretty straightforward. An individual would apply through the National Plan and Provider Enumeration System. There are step-by-step instructions that are available on the MPPS website. And they estimate that if an individual does this online, it usually takes about 10 business days to complete. And if it's done by paper, it takes around 20 business days. The application is free, and it is required prior to enrolling with the IHCP. So before you get to that second step, you have to make sure you've got an NPI available. Throughout the application, you'll be asked a series of questions. It's not the state of Indiana's application, so we won't comment too much on that, but there are a couple key details that we did want to make reference to. That individual will be asked to provide an appropriate taxonomy code. Taxonomy code is just a way of identifying a provider's specialty when they want to create an NPI. There's dozens and dozens of taxonomy codes. For IHCP enrollment purposes, we don't have any specific requirement for a specific taxonomy code, but we do recommend for school psychologists that you use the taxonomy code that we've identified on the screen. You'll also be asked to identify a practice location, and for simplicity, we would recommend that you use your school's address, your primary school's address. Now, once you've got the NPI, you'll need to move forward with enrolling with the IHCP as an ordering, prescribing, or referring provider. Now, why is this enrollment appropriate for these individuals? An OPR enrollment is specifically for individuals who may occasionally see an individual who's an IHCP member, who may need to see additional services or supplies that will be covered by the Medicaid program. That individual does not want to be enrolled as another IHCP provider type. And most critically, this individual does not plan to submit claims to the IHCP for payment of services rendered. Key detail to remember here, to reiterate, school corporations will continue to be the entity that are billing for services. School-based school psychologists are just the individuals who are ordering or referring an individual to a service that will be claimed by the school corporation. To enroll with the IHCP as an OPR provider, we recommend that individuals use the IHCP Provider Healthcare Portal. Again, those individuals must have an NPI, and it's a streamlined application just asking a few quick questions. There's no cost to the provider. If done online, we estimate that this application will be processed within 15 business days, and if you decide to submit it by paper, it may take within 20 business days. Effective immediately, school psychologists may enroll as OPR providers. They can do this by selecting Type 50, which is OPR, and then Specialty 086 for school psychologists. And again, schools must have an ordering provider listed for any Medicaid claiming. And as of November 1st, any claims without an individual as an ordering or referring provider will be denied. If you have questions about this process, we've included contact information for the provider relations field consultants located throughout the state. You can find their email addresses and phone numbers. They'll be happy to help you out with any clarifications on this requirement, as well as any assistance getting through the enrollment process. Your Indiana Department of Health contact, Indiana Department of Education contact will be seeking questions from school corporations. They'll be working with FSSA on addressing those questions, and we'll be prepared to provide follow-up instructions as necessary. But until that point, again, we thank you for listening to this presentation today. We hope you have a great rest of your day.